Okay. Hello, interhumans. Sorry that I'm laying down. As I said in the description, I've been having one of my flare ups recently. I also spoke about it briefly on my shorts. Still been meaning to do the update for that as well, just haven't gotten to it. Almost didn't do this actually as well because of that. But I'm here, so I hope people don't mind too much that I'm gonna be laying down throughout this situation. I find it ironic that somehow my topics that I prepare every week seem to feed into something that happens in my real life as well. Because this week's topic, as you saw, is about what this beautiful little thing called trauma. I'm just gonna say corn and pornography the whole time because I'm actually too scared to do it that way because like I'm scared it's gonna get flagged. But I'll try to euphem and change the word as much as I can. But basically, to explain what this little internet phenomenon is, we all have seen this. Whether you're a Gen Xer, a baby boomer, a Gen Z millennial. Okay, I think the Gen Alphas have been so far. No, I think they're actually getting old enough to be exposed to this as well. But like, as long as television and news media has existed, we've had trauma P word existing because what it is quintessentially is shows like Jerry Springer, Maury Powitz, even Oprah Winfrey, Dr. Phil, like all of these things, they're people who make use of this to make money. And what it is they take people who go through extreme trauma and they put it on the television and then they exploit their stories and drive up their views by doing so, making them a lot of money and not leaving the traumatized person that was on their show in any kind of better way than when they came on the show, even though they do like to sometimes sell it like that. Some of the shows are just literally there to like to bait you into feeling angry and aggressive and all the things. So yeah, it's ironic that I would have a flare this week as I'm running into talking about this topic because on TikTok specifically, when it comes to this topic, it's like what trauma P word would be is that it's people who watch other people crying all of the time. Like, they're just like, they're just sharing all of the worst parts of themselves with other people, and like people are kind of just watching it and like getting off of it. And that's the thing, like I know a lot of people wouldn't think you could get off on something like that because like, oh, but it's not like sexually triggering anything. It doesn't have to be that. It has to give you a sense of pleasure. And unfortunately, a lot of people do feel a lot better about their lives whenever they watch people with really bad ones. The As always, there's like documentaries and things that I watch that kind of incite the topics that I choose, and I will again be sharing some links and stuff to the things specifically that I was watching. But the one specific thing that I was watching was on this guy. I can't even remember his name now, but like everybody saw his stuff. He was this really good photographer, black and white photographer, and he eventually, when I don't think we're allowed to say 2019 struck, he started this channel on YouTube where in kind of like a black and white setting, he would like go out in the beginning. He would go out and like meet people in their circumstances and situations, and then he would have interviews with them and kind of like tell people what the situation is like in their lives and what's going to be happening in their lives and all of that kind of stuff. And in the beginning, it was great. Like, people were like, wow, this guy's doing such a great thing. Because one of the big things he did draw attention to was the people on Skid Row in America. And, like, the situation of what they were living, like, that the reality they were living in. And also, he went to, like, the Appalachians, where there's, like, a lot of inbreeding, and interviewed inbred families. And so he was really, like, creating awareness. But I suppose it went to his head at some point, and because of that, he ended up going back to visit some of these people and some of these families. And where a big part of the controversy did start was when he went to go visit this one like redneck family that he like inbred family that he interviewed like early on in the whole situation. And instead of like kind of asking the family just like how they were doing and stuff, he did something quite interesting. He was more focused on a GoFundMe that he started after that interview, and like how much money the GoFundMe raised for this family. And the thing is, it's the guy that did the documentary on this topic that I will be sharing like his documentary, because he did it really well. He did a lot of research, but he actually like mentions how much money the guy made off of the YouTube video, and how insurmountably little the amount was that they made on the supposed GoFundMe for this family. And like the family was saying on the video like, oh no, it was nice, like, but they didn't really talk much about it. And then it actually came out, another YouTuber found out who this family, like where this family lived and stuff, and went to go interview them by himself. And the family actually said that like, no, they just kind of played along, like they never actually got any money from this guy. And it just kind of went on. And then eventually it got to this point where he was doing these like studio skits where the people would come in, and people from Skid Row, people from like all kinds of walks of life, but like on the losing side of everything. And he would just literally bait these people into saying some of the most horrible things in their lives. And it actually did happen that a few, like one of the woman that did go on the show, her family actually ended up wanting to sue this guy for what he was doing, because she was doing better, and then he kind of like just made her feel so bad about herself and her hopes and her dreams and all the things, like just devaluing her on the show. And then she eventually did unalive herself, and the family obviously did blame him significantly for that, and like exploiting her the way that he did, but nothing came of that. And then, but he's kind of like, yes, he's big, but he's almost small fry compared to the other guys that I mentioned earlier. Like, I mean, just look at the whole thing going on right now with Oprah Winfrey and with Phil McGraw, because both of them, even though a lot of people just saw it as like talk shows, the thing is they were not really just talking. They kind of pulled in people off the streets and off of all these places, and they just like exploited their stories to make themselves money. Like, for example, something so interesting. I don't even know where I can. That documentary that I'm going to talk about now was actually in last week's live, but because I'm mentioning it now, I might just like actually put it in the tag again, because it's this documentary that I watched on Oprah Winfrey specifically. And they were talking about how, you know, that like stuff that she said about the one, you in a car, you in a car, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car, like that whole thing that she did. Do you know like the amount of BS that happened to people because of that whole win a car thing? A lot of the people ended up like having to give back the car because they couldn't afford the tax to actually own the car that she gave them, because there's like a gifting tax that you have to pay in America whenever you receive a gift of such magnitude. And yeah, a bunch of the people never actually, like, they didn't show that on the show, but a bunch of the people couldn't. And then the people who did end up getting the cars, they actually had to pay for the car because they had to pay for this tax and stuff. So, and like, it wasn't like you could, and if they were to buy the same car for themselves, they would have been able to lease it and pay it over a couple of months or whatever. But because it was like a gift, they had to pay the whole tax in that moment to get the car. But how did she get, and it's so funny because also like the thing is like, where did she get the money for the car in the first place? And it's literally because of this talk show that she has where she brings all of these people on to just exploit them, literally exploit them. And then when her talk show wasn't doing a good enough job of that, she got Dr. Phil McGraw, and she hosted like just gave him a TV show, and he did a pretty good job. Because I think like the thing that a lot of people, if you name say Jerry Springer for example, and you name Dr. Phil, to you these two people are not the same. Like they don't even register on the same thing. And it's because to people Jerry Springer is like this like bullshit show. It's just disgusting. It's just all these hillbillies and all these things, and it's so bad. But Phil McGraw, the only reason his wasn't revered in the same light as Jerry Springer is because of the setup. Because Jerry Springer was very much just a freaking TV host. Whereas, like, Dr. Phil McGraw, he's a clinical psychiatrist with a psychologist with a PhD. And, like, he used to represent all these high profile court cases as in a psychological, like, words, in a psychological kind of, like, way. And he had this beautifully set up stage, and his audience also were always really well dressed people. If they did speak, which they barely ever did unless they were scripted to speak, everybody was always super eloquent, and the crowd kind of like oohed and awed, whereas like in Jerry Springer people just shout profanities. So people often like thought like, oh yes, of course Jerry Springer is bad, like that is, you can see that as like someone exploiting something and like making it bad. But then when they look at something like Dr. Phil, they don't necessarily see it like that. And it's literally just because of staging, but it's still the same thing. It's still people exploiting somebody else's trauma just to make themselves a buck. Because those shows aren't made, they're just not created in any sort of way to help the person that is on the show. They're entertainment. They're there for entertainment. And there was another one that I was and then I was just thinking, yeah, sorry, brain fog is so fun. Then I was just thinking about like TV in general, because if you think about it, a lot of TV shows that people are watching nowadays, like a lot of series, and maybe this is just my mom, maybe it's you, maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your mom's mom, like I don't care, it's someone you know does this. They watch these crime dramas like SVU and NCIS and like all of the things. My mom's addicted to this stuff, by the way. And then now with the prevalence, well, in South Africa it's K-drama. Like K-drama is big here now. we also do have like the Latin one. The telenovelas are also becoming quite big here. But like I know it's in other countries as well, the telenovelas especially, and then K drama, because like everything is becoming more like Korean influenced nowadays. Well, South Korean influenced nowadays. And even these like series and episodes and shows, like why do we watch it? You're not learning anything specifically from it. Like whenever you watch the medical dramas though, people think they're so smart because they watch medical dramas, because they're using all of these like fancy medical terms. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, the only reason I know the bones in my fingers are called phalanges is because of watching Bones. Like literally, I'm not even gonna pretend like I am impervious to this blah 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 blah. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm impervious to this, because like I loved watching Bones. I loved it because I felt like it was so educational, and like it wasn't your normal kind of like drama, because like they always had these really interesting cases and all of the things. But it's the same thing. It's basically gossip. Because the stories that make it aren't the stories that are highly informative. It's not the stories that are anything in particular. Most of the stories that actually end up making it in the industry of drama, which that is what it is drama. Um, the stories that make it are the stories that are very personal to the characters. And I guess that's what makes it a little bit interesting, the fact that like I'm talking about this at this point where like it's very relevant to the fact that I am laying here and that I am having brain fog and that I'm like doing all the things because I'm like having a flare up. So I find it ironic that it's kind of like playing into that whole TV drama thing where like one of the characters' story in the episode always ends up relating in some kind of way to the murder case or to the whatever the situation is, but it's because it's gossip. And that's what even the trauma, I don't want to filter myself, but trauma PR not for me. That I think that's like the big thing that pulls people to it, is the fact that like it's gossip. It's like you're finding out something you're not supposed to know. And it's kind of like it's like coochie. It's like, like did you hear? Did you hear the thing? Did you see? Like it's kind of that mentality, and I find it interesting that that's literally what we're selling now, because in these dramas we're watching people go through trauma as well. Like we're watching it's a very scripted trauma, but we're still watching people like going through trauma. And I think the only thing that makes us feel a little bit better about the drama than watching Jerry Springer is the fact that like it's well produced, and it looks like the people, and at least a few of them, sometimes find resolution at the end of the episode. Whereas like in Jerry Springer, for example, there's never really there is a resolution. It's just like always kind of like I think I think to say that it's not what you expect would be a lie. What we would not expect from a Jerry Springer episode is for someone to actually come out at the end of it a changed person. Like, the guy that cheated will just like be like, I am so sorry that I am this deplorable human being, and like I'm going to therapy, and then have like a success or story follow up. Like, that is not what you're gonna get on Jerry Springer. It's never gonna be that. At the end of the episode, either two women are gonna beat each other with a chair, or a man and a woman, or a man and a man. Like, the point is, there's gonna be fighting, screaming. People are gonna pull people's weaves out. People are gonna remove their shoes at some point and start taking off their earrings, and some security guard is gonna go after them to stop them. Like, or like some woman is gonna like French kiss some guy, or do some sexually exploitative thing to them on the stage, and like that's what you expect from Jerry Springer. But then they paint it as like something you would never expect, and it's like, no, no, if you've watched, even if you're one of those people that only ever saw like little clips of the show, you've seen enough to know. And then you have like Maury Povich, which is like the same thing. It's like the same story line. Oh my gosh, and then we had those court case. I don't know if those still exist even. Like, I think you can still find them. You still see them on the TV in South Africa quite often. Is these court cases where you had like Judge Judy, Judge Judy, and then what was the other? There was a guy as well. I just can't remember. And, oh, and God, there was that Ricky Lake woman that also did like one of these talk shows, but she was like more like Maury Povich though, I think, in a way. But yeah, like you get my point. Like these things exist, and now we're stepping it up a notch because now we've got things happening like Love Island, and what else? Like unfortunately, I don't watch these things often, so it's mostly the video that's kind of like videos that sparked this. Because the other one, like something that I want to suggest you guys watch is they made a documentary on, I can't even remember his name, I just remember his last name, the McAfee dude. McAfee. I don't know. We always called it McAfee antivirus, and then I found out it's McAfee or something like that. But this guy, like, he created his own little saga, but it's also kind of like very much based on trauma because he was doing this like high speed chase thing where like, you have to watch it to believe it, but like you can see this man just scripted this narrative for himself, and it's like he had the money to do so, so he just like committed to it and saw it through, and I think it's brilliant. But then also the other thing that I was thinking, the other video that I found was this guy, he was like a rock and roll star type thing, and one of those rock and roll stars that was kind of like infamous, and one of his like stunts that he did that made him so infamous, there's a really weird shadow on my nose right now and I don't like it at all. Anyway, he was one of those guys that just did outrageous things. Like at one stage in life, oh my gosh, this nose is just annoying me, but like in one stage he actually defecated on stage and did all of the interesting things, and he was actually, I think he was on, yeah, he went on Jerry Springer as well, and oh my gosh, you guys can just like see into my nose, it's freaking me out. Anyway, he just like he went on Jerry Springer, but even beyond going on Jerry Springer, he was also like just very active in the news media, in the sense of like he just like sold this narrative of his life, and boy was it a life. He chose to not date any woman over the age of 16. He would do illicit substances, but that wasn't his problem. His problem was literally just alcohol, and it got so bad that he actually didn't really have furniture. He was not making no money for his stuff. Like he was kind of like the original punk kid, but like he wasn't like the other punks that were kind of like sellouts. He was like, yeah, he was everything a punk song explained. He was that, like, personified. And I just feel so low energy right now. But anyway, and he as well, he exploited the fact that people live for this drama. Like they need to have this drama in their lives, and he just kept going and doing things that were just a little bit more outrageous every single time. And oh, it's because this side has sunlight and this side does not, and now it's very dark and it's bothering the fuck out of me. Anyway, so this guy exploited this whole industry, and he just kind of like went with it, and it made him money to feel his alcohol addiction, which is like literally the only one he had. Like the other stuff, he just did it for clout. He and it ended up getting to a point where he. This is just such an interesting way to unalive yourself, by the way. Because this man, like I said, he had this stunt where he, like, defecated on stage. But also, because of, like, the type of content that he was doing on stage, he was, like, very much cutting his body during the show. And then he had to take, obviously because he was trying to do it, like, semi on cue. So he, like, chronically took laxatives to, like, make sure he could when he needed to. And then that would get onto the cuts and it would fester, and he got self-induced blood poisoning often, to the point where that eventually was like his damning blow. Again, I will include a link to this because it's one of the, I don't want to suggest you watch it because like I could not do it in one sitting. It was something. But I know some people can, and I think that is why this is an industry that is just constantly growing, because there are people who can sit for a 1 hour documentary. I actually think it's longer than an hour, but like there are people who can do that. They can sit and just watch this crap for hours and hours on end. Like I used to date this guy that had a mild obsession with Jerry Springer and with Cops, like those two shows. And I swear to gosh, it was like a thing. If he was feeling some kind of way when he woke up in the morning, he will sit in bed and just on like a loop, because Jerry Springer was usually on Reels, like his Facebook Reels, and then Cops, he would like actually watch full episodes on YouTube. And he would spend the whole day like that, like literally the whole day. And then he also watched A&E, which is this like British thing where like it's like literal trauma, like the people are coming into the hospital and stuff. And what was the other one he watched? I think it was like, it's something to do with like people going through customs in Australia. And it's just like, these industries, I thought these things weren't even working online anymore. Like, I didn't know there was new things being created. I thought that this was one of those little blips that happen in life, and it's like an era that happens and we move past it. But it is not. It is not one of those things. It has new things popping up often. Like the fact that the channel TLC still exists, that should tell you about everything you need to know about this whole situation. But yeah, I am trying really hard to make it through this hour. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it through the hour because I'm starting to feel kind of like ugh. And that's why this is probably also not as entertaining as some of my others have been, although it could have been a very entertaining topic, I feel. I'm not feeling well, but I'm gonna try to keep going for as long as I can. But please excuse me if I end this one early though. But I just find it very interesting that people find topics like that so interesting, watching people go through all of these things, and it just always makes me ask, like, why would someone enjoy watching someone going through that kind of pain? Why would someone enjoy watching people act like that, because a lot of the times, like a lot of these things, the people are just acting so disgustingly. They're acting, and it's acting like, yes, I know, like some of them are very much people with like real issues, and some of the people really really are like that as well. But it's like, I don't know why people would watch something like that. Like there was this episode of Jerry Springer's. I'll have to go find it because like I haven't watched this in a long time, but like I watched the documentary on this happening. There was this Jerry Springer episode where it actually ended up leading to a whole ass murder, and Jerry Springer just like was like, I am not responsible for what happens when they leave the grounds of this thing. And I'm trying to remember, because like I feel like it was like some kind of stalker thing, man. Like all I know is it's like there was this guy that didn't want to be there, and he was forced to be there, and then him being forced to be there happened to turn into a whole ass murder. But I can't remember the whole story right now. As I said, I watched it a while ago, but like I'm remembering it now. And it's just the fact that a story like that even exists is baffling to me, because for a story like that to exist shows you this has gone too far already before that moment, and people just keep going into it. Hi, Zan. But yeah, people just keep going into the whole like feeding this industry of people who are calling it exploiting feels almost wrong, because a lot of the people that go onto these shows, they don't even go onto these shows with the intention of my best friend is here, maybe I make it a bit longer. But I think a lot of the people that go onto these shows, they don't go onto these shows with the intention of anything good happening in their life, really. I think they just go on these shows because they want attention. Because I can't think why you'd want to go and literally just air out all of your laundry. Like, some of the things. Oh, I remember. So, it was something to do with a gay guy and a straight guy. And the gay guy hit on the straight guy, and then the straight guy was like, bruh, I'm straight. And then the gay guy brought him on to the straight guy onto Jerry Springer, and I think the straight guy ended up like the gay guy, if I remember. Again, speaking under correction, but I will go and find this video as well to put into the credit part of my thing. But that's how far this went, that like this guy thought, I'm gonna bring this dude on Jerry Springer, and I don't know what it was he was trying to achieve. Either he was trying to insult this guy because the guy like batted him, or alternatively he thought that the guy was gonna change his mind because of it. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. None of these people that go on these shows make sense to me, because no matter what they say the outcome is that they would like to have, I can't see a reality where they could actually believe that is what's going to happen. Like, why would someone that has never wanted to be your boyfriend, why would they suddenly want to be your boyfriend because you took them onto national TV? People are not often paid for their... So in some of the stories, yes, Nanki Zani, yes, in some of the stories they are paid. Like, I know that Jerry Springer used to give people like a small little kickback for giving Anaya. How do I say that? Anaya. Hi, Anaya. But I know that Jerry Springer used to give people a small kickback for coming onto his show. And I'm sure several others have, because like you have to sign the little non-disclosure agreement and all those things. But I honestly don't think they do that anymore, because I auditioned for Idols in South Africa in 2000, either 2009 or 2010. I'm not, no, it had to be 2010 or 2011, because I was already out of high school. But I went to go audition, and like I did sign an NDA, so I hope I'm not gonna get sued for this one. But yeah, like if they don't pay you, like if anything, it's quite interesting how it works. But like I don't want to give it away and then get into. Oh, did I say it right? I'm so happy. Thank you, Anaya. And then but yeah, like they don't, not anymore. Like again, I did hear before that like some people do pay in the past, or did pay in the past, or maybe it's like based on the country or the type of show. But I know that some people give you a kickback, like maybe like $150 or whatever, but in most cases they don't. Especially in reality TV, they always give you this beautiful, oh my gosh, and I just watched this today. There's this new documentary series thing that they did on America's Next Top Model, and the whole like Tyra Banks, is it Tyra Banks? I think that's her name, but like the model queen. Um, Payment is like the only reason I could understand why people would do it, otherwise just no. Yeah, I don't understand it either. Like okay, I get it, today people want to be influencers and they wanted to have clout and like whatever, but I guess that's why those kinds of shows don't like really exist anymore, because people just don't see the point anymore, because they can just like trauma bond online now and get people to buy into their story that way. Because you do get those creators that are just like giving you that trauma. They're just like here for it. They're just constantly, not to call out Nico Avocado 2 weeks in a row though, but like, man, he was exploiting that shit. Like he was literally like, he saw a gap in the market and he went for it, and people were on it, because now that he used to be skinny, then he got really overweight and did the whole mukbang crazy person act, and then he got skinny again, and he doesn't have followers anymore. And a lot of people are like, no, it's because he actually just like lied to his followers and like treated them like idiots and whatever. And it's like, dude, there's a lot of people that lie to their followers and treat them like idiots, and they don't have like that kind of backlash. It's literally because he's not an overweight person screaming and crying and stuffing his face all the time. That's what it's about. If he was still doing that kind of content while being skinny, I can assure you his following would have stayed the same. They would have had like a little hiccup moment. But no, his coming out party as to him losing the weight was actually just him telling people like, you're fucking idiots, because like this is what you do. He literally called out his fandom and told them like, now that I'm skinny, you're not gonna care anymore. Now that I'm gonna do intellectual content again, you're not gonna care anymore, because look at what happened before. And everybody was like, no, this is bullshit, he lied to us, like blah 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 blah. But the thing is, what happened? He did continue doing mukbang style content, not as aggressively though, because he is paying more attention to what he eats again. But the big thing is he's more calm. When he speaks, he's more eloquent. He's still working with the same creators. Like when he does what do you call it, like co-hosting and stuff, it's still the same creators that he's like pulling in with him and stuff. It's exactly the same stuff. It's literally the same content. He's just acting more calm. He's not as disjointed. He's not constantly screaming and crying and like swearing and just making like horrible fat jokes about himself. And he's not doing that anymore. And that's what cost him his followers. Like, on one side, calling them out for the fact that they wanted him to be that. But then on the other side, also literally just him not being that person anymore, and them knowing that he's never been that person. It was all just for the act. And a lot of people are like, oh no, but like he couldn't have lost so much weight in a year. It must have been what is that bloody insulin thing that everybody's putting into their bodies now? See, this is the point where like my brain just dies. Everybody loves this thing. It's like a thank you, Ozempic. See, this is why my best friend needs to be here, because I go dumb and then she helps me be smart. By the way, everybody, ironically, today my best friend Zanmarie is here. Like, she's commenting along. Today is Best Friend Day. It's the day that SpongeBob and Patrick celebrate being best friends. So, happy Best Friend Day to my best friend Zanmarie for being here while she's here watching me talk about people trauma bonding on the internet. But yeah, a lot of people are like saying that like he used Ozempic. And I don't think it matters how he lost the weight. I really don't think it matters. At the end of the day, he did lose the weight. And he did make an effort of like making a difference. And love you. And he did make a big difference to his physical appearance. And the thing is where I struggle to kind of like believe that it was Ozempic. Although I do believe he did have some surgical intervention, because like his body does look like it kind of like went back to like a decent shape again. Like it doesn't have that much residual issues. So, or maybe it was just a really good fat suit. I don't know. But the big thing is that he did lose the weight, and now people are angry about it, because like now he's not a fat person screaming at other people anymore. He's not stuffing his face and being rude. And I don't think he should have to be that just because people had come to expect that. Yes, okay, he made the effort to fool people into being something that he wasn't. But c'est la vie. And that's the whole point of this whole like trauma, poor word I cannot say, situation and industry. They're taking people who, and I think that's why they're angry with Nico, is the fact that like he actually did it to them. Like, they didn't get to exploit him, he exploited them by creating this. But anyway, like in all the examples, like I said, I'll again just share like a bunch of video links to you guys for the videos that I watched to gather all the things. But when you look at all of these industries, they're not going after people like Nico. They're going after people who are on the lower side of the intellectual spectrum. They're going after people who are so down on their luck they don't have a choice but to be exploited by these people. They're going after people with really horrible stories that, honest to godness, should not be talking about that stuff online, because it just leads to such dire consequences. I mean, yes, on the one side, it's quite brilliant having people around to relate to if you're someone that comes from those kinds of backgrounds. But the problem is that, like, cool, I'm being represented, but in what way? They're not selling it in a way where the person is in any way being rehabilitated. They're not sharing it in a way where the person is in any way receiving retribution or just any kind of goodness. It's literally they're taking this person who had this absolutely deplorable life with absolutely horrible things happening to them. They're sticking them in front of a camera, usually with the promise of money. Whether the person receives the money or not, we never end up finding out. But some YouTubers, like I said, have done the effort to go and find out, and a lot of people did not receive the money. And it's just really sad to me that these people do this because they're taking a chance. They're like actually taking a chance to try and better their lives. And they're hoping that, okay, I'm selling my body, but I'm selling my body in a way that's like more consensual to me at least. But then they end up being exploited. Whether it's like physically what they said in those days that they were on the interview, or if it's literally just how the video was edited to change their story to sound like something they said, even if it wasn't really. Like, that's the thing that makes me so upset about the whole situation, is that these people are down on their luck. They're people who are literally at the end of their rope and just kind of being like, maybe this can do something. Maybe this will help in some kind of way. And what ends up happening is that they're just painted in such a bad light. And it's like I was mentioning about this documentary of that they made about Tyra Banks now, with the whole America's Next Top Model issue thing that has arisen. Because apparently Next Top Model became relevant after the 90s as well. And I just found it very interesting. Number one, the stuff that people got away with when I was a kid. Oh my goodness. Like, I remember watching this show and being like, yes, this is definitely what the modeling industry is like. This is definitely what happens to people. Like, I did not get offended about anything that they did. I did not get offended. Like, I didn't think it was wrong. I didn't think anything about it. Because to me, yes, the shoots that were just supposed to never be shot, like those things, for example, like, I was just like, wow, that is a very provocative way of expressing yourself creatively, because that's what the 90s were. Like, please, people, when you're judging Tyra Banks, remember that this is the time frame where Andy Warhol was still relevant. This is the era in which Queen was like top of the charts. It was a different time. Was the things that happened wrong? Yes, it was wrong. Were those the wrong things that happened the things that paved the way to people now being able to do the things that they do without having stuff like that happen to them? Absolutely. But, and I'm not trying to excuse any of this, it's just like the reason shows like that gain traction, the reason shows like that are so popular, is because it's giving you a look inside. It's giving you the fake sense of seeing behind the curtain. And that's what it is. It's voyeurism. At the very, very least, it's voyeurism. Why do we like drama? Why do we have to go sit and kiki with our friends and like spore that spilling hot tea? Like, why do we have to do that? We do that because we live for it. We live for the drama. We live for the trauma. And that is why this industry is so big. But now we end up every single time getting so angry. We get so angry because it's like exploitation and this and that, which, please don't get me wrong. I think the expectation of exploitation. But anyway, I think exploitation is, did I just say it wrong again? I don't know. Anyway, I think it's wrong. I don't think it's right to exploit people. I think it's absolutely deplorable taking away people's rights and then using them to benefit yourself. I think it's disgusting. I don't think it should exist. Do I think that the fact that it exists and us getting angry about it and not really doing anything about it is helping anyone? No. Because guess what? We're getting angry about it, but we're still watching it. We're still watching it. Because whether you are watching the guy that gets exposed for the first time, because what happens is, like now with Top Model, I can promise you This documentary just aired. Within the next month, the reviews of that show is going to be so high. It's probably going to be higher because the population is higher. The people who can access these things is just so much higher than back then. So I promise you, within the next couple of months, the ratings of that show is going to be higher than it was when it did its first run. Because that is how people work. You can't just hear it exists. You have to go and find it. That's why I started having to upload links to the videos that I discuss in these things, because people want to go see the videos that I'm talking about. And that's the thing, you're generating views. And I find it really sad that we've come to this point in life, but that's where we're at. So we can be loud, we can be upset, we can be angry, we can do whatever we want. But at the end of the day, we're not going to change it until we change. We're never going to change because the industry, until we stop watching these people, we need to stop watching. And we can't, because we're so curious, because we live for it. We live for the kiki, we live for the tea. And until we find a place inside where we can stop doing that, I just don't see how it's going to change. And I don't see how people are going to stop doing it either. And the one thing that I guess I do really like about the fact that people can jump on a live like this now, or post content to the internet or whatever, at least the cool thing about that is that you can kind of monetize yourself now. Someone else doesn't need to exploit your trauma anymore. You can exploit it for your own monetary gain, which I think that's kind of nice. And maybe that's what we should be doing. Maybe we should be finding creators who are trauma posting and rather be supporting those individual creators instead of going and trying to find shows or stuff like that. Because if you think about it, there's this, I can't even remember this podcast's name because I've literally never watched an episode, but there's this podcast with these red pill guys that's always on this panel, and then they usually get girls in that are either OnlyFans models or just women who are not real women, as they say it. And then these guys are exploiting these women's stories and just kind of having these women go at each other, because they never have panelists that move from the same, they literally never have panelists that come in from the same viewpoints, which that's what a panel discussion is supposed to be. It's supposed to be people from opposing viewpoints. But my thing is that those panelists aren't the ones driving the views. It's not driving their views, it's driving the podcast. Because yes, a lot of these OnlyFans models and girls, they do go on this. What is this podcast name? If someone knows this podcast name, tell me what this podcast name is. It's bothering the crap out of me right now. But when the girls go on these podcasts, it's usually to promote themselves as either social media influencers or OnlyFans models. That's what they do. And they're not getting the rewards that the hosts are getting. It's just not happening. Because let's be fair, you're not exactly joining to hear what they have to say. Usually when people join these podcasts, and that's the thing that I've noticed from this podcast, they call it a podcast, but I don't know a whole bunch of people who actually listen to this podcast. It's usually people watching the podcast being filmed, and that they watch it. That's the thing. It's not there. It's that voyeuristic tendency coming back, because they need to see what these girls sound like. They need to see what these girls look like. For example, there was one, I think this fucking GIF is still circulating the uniwebs, but this girl, she was quite overweight, and she had an unfortunate face, to be honest, and she kept saying how she doesn't struggle to get a boyfriend, and she was an OnlyFans model and all these things. And then that's when the whole big back culture thing started, and she was so big back and all of the things. And it's like people didn't go to listen to her defending herself or listen to her defending her lifestyle. People went to go see what she looks like. People went to go see like if she had any kind of validity to the statements that she was making, and then she was judged because she didn't look like their perception of beauty. Well, I come to tell you, there is a woman, I again do not remember her name. I only saw this on TikTok yesterday, and I feel bad for not. Maybe I shared, like, maybe I reposted it. I don't know. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna run out of time. It's gonna make that little alarm again. So I need to move. Anyway, this girl created an OnlyFans account. She didn't post any nudes. She just went and literally took photos of her ankles, like her ankles, but like in a Victorian style. So like she dressed herself up as like a Victorian or whatever, and then did these like beautiful staged ankle shots. And she made like almost $400 in a week posting photos, stylized photos. So you just don't know what people's kinks are. And you just can't judge. You just can't judge, but we do. That's what we live for. We live for the kiki, we live for the tea. But again, I am very aware of the fact that this timer is running out and that it's going to make the alarm. And if the alarm goes off, my little autistic ass is going to like burn to the ground. So I'm going to start wrapping this up now. Again, thank you to my best friend, Zanmarie, for being here, especially on Best Friends Day, because we are SpongeBob and Patrick, the two of us. So it's always very special when I get to do things with her on this day. And also the rest of you that were here, like, goodness gravy. It's been wild doing these. I usually never think people are gonna turn up, and then people do, and it's always like pretty freaking interesting, and I love it very much. And I love all of you for being here and doing this and like giving me enough dopamine to keep doing this even on a flare day, and for nobody having a bitch fit about me laying down, which I was really anxious about doing, but it seemed to have worked. And yeah, I'm gonna sign off before the alarm goes, but again, thank you all so much for coming. I'll post again on next week's live. I always share the live event to my profile at the top, so you can check it there if you want to. I usually try to do it on Thursdays at 6 o'clock in South African Standard Time. I also have been starting to back post these to my YouTube if you want to go watch any of the old ones. I'm doing that. I also usually include a link when I do my highlight post, along with the links to all the videos and stuff that I used, because I like to give people information, because I like information. But yeah, on that note, that's all from me this week, Interhumans. I hope you all have a blessed, prosperous, and wonderful week. Remember to ask questions, and I guess that means I shall see you all very soon. Cheerio, bye-bye. And now we're just in the post-recording window where I'm like just trying to figure out how all of the things work. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Cause I have to close the window before I can do the thing. I don't know how. I don't know how. I don't know how. I am doing this every week. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, let me close that. And then I can stop the recording for the poor people watching this on YouTube.